person trying to get his rest up here.
Hello, Kenny, me old puffed up.
Oh, yes.
How you doing?
Same as usual, doing it alone, by myself. Tragic and all. How's that owl of yours coming along? Nearly done with it, have you?
Oh, nearly done. Should be off tonight.
Really? Well, you could have fooled me. Positively massive it is. Well, if you need any help filling it, your owl, that is, give me a bell. Ta-ra!
Ta-ra, mate.
Plebeians. Expecting me to behave like that is positively a disgrace.
Tremendous piece of work. It's a great programme, great piece of drama.
Just a little bit of Kenneth Williams trivia. The other day I was coming on the train from York, and just as I was about to get on the train, I was a tap on the shoulder, and I heard a voice say, "Well, what are the chances of two Kenneth Williams impersonators on the same train?" And it was a man called David Benson, who does an amazing one-man show about Kenneth Williams.
I've heard about that. I haven't seen it.
We spent the whole... I never met him before. We spent the whole train journey together talking about Kenneth Williams.
But I hope we didn't spend the whole time doing Kenneth Williams, because that would be worse than a kid with an iPod on full breath. Do you get asked to do... If people see you recognise, they say, could you do a bit of this one, do a bit of that one?
No, only interviewers ask that, funnily enough. No one actually asked me that in real life. And to be honest, on the whole, I wouldn't be able to do it. Because if I focus on one person for months, then I can get somewhere close. But the idea of actually just coming up with it, you know, is impossible. I can't do it.
OK. You see, I didn't want to make you do that, but it's so satisfying when it comes out. You're from Wales originally, is that correct?
I am. I'm from a town called Port Talbot in South Wales.
That's where Anthony Hopkins comes from, I think?
Anthony Hopkins and Richard Burton.
Wow, so it's got quite an acting community, I guess. Does it have an acting tradition there? Is there a strong youth theatre with a lot of places?
Well, I went to a youth theatre that was amazing, the West Glamorgan Youth Theatre, but in the days of Burton and Hopkins, there was nothing like that there. So, I mean, goodness knows why they produced these. I mean, it's an old steel town, very working-class town, very kind of, you know, macho, male-oriented sort of place, and yet it produces these actors.
And what sort of a size town is it? How many people are there, roughly? Is it a big place, lots of...
There's 3 people. Me,
you, Catherine Zeta-Jones and Anthony Hopkins, yeah.
No, I mean, it's a small town, it's on the coast, and I love it, but it's not considered to be the most beautiful area of Wales.
And did you know that you would be an actor from early age? Did you immediately go into that, or did you have the usual round of kind of jobs, small jobs to pave your way to get you there?
Well, I wanted to be a football player for years and years and years.
Were you any good?
I was. Well, words like genius and natural ability were bandied about by me, but no, I was pretty good. And then I thought I was going to go to university, and that's what I do. And then I realised that no, actually, I wanted to go to drama school, so I ended up having a year off. So I had to get a job, and so a proper job. And I ended up working in Wales's first drive-through burger bar, called Burger Master.
I never knew Wales had any drive-through burger bars.
Well, yeah, not anymore.
The Burger Master in Port Talbot, is it still there? Do we know?
No, I don't think... It didn't even have a proper building. It was just a porter cabin at the side of the motorway. And I had to go down there and open it up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and it'd be freezing cold, pouring with rain, and I'd have to walk along the side of the motorway picking up litter that had come from people who had eaten at Burger Master, putting it in a bin bag and go back in dressed up in oilskins and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, I think I'll become an international superstar instead of doing that.
And the choice panned out nicely for you.
Funny enough, it worked out.
OK. Let me ask you about the rest of your family. Is there any other performers in the family? Anyone going back in the history of your family? Your dad, your mum, or
well, my dad works as a Jack Nicholson lookalike.
Hang on.
What?
He actually does work as a Jack Nicholson lookalike?
Yeah, he's ever since the first Batman film came out, the really early Batman film came out, you don't know about it?
I didn't know this.
My dad, suddenly overnight, Jack Nicholson was playing the Joker, and overnight people started coming up to him and saying, "You really look like Jack Nicholson."
Well, there's my next question gone. I was going to say, does he look like Jack Nicholson? But I'm sure that's a bonus in that job.
Well, my dad didn't know who Jack Nicholson was. He thought it was the golfer, Jack Nicklaus. But then so many people came up to him, and then there was a competition in the newspaper saying, "Do you look like the Joker?" So he said to me, "Will you put the makeup on me, Michael, and you know, make me look like the Joker, and I'll enter this competition." And so I put the makeup on him, took the photograph, sent it off. He won. He got an agent, and then his first job was at the local cinema, the Plaza, Port Talbot, and he had to stand outside pretending he was a waxwork of Jack Nicholson whilst everyone queued up, and then he'd jump out at them and scare them. And in fact, there was one guy in the queue, a guy called Dave, who worked with him, and didn't recognise my dad, and he jumped out and went, "Dave, what are you doing here?" And the guy ran up the street, never to come back. And then since then, he worked all over the world. He's been all over the world. He's done commercials, he's done TV shows, he's done all sorts.
Well, OK, let's talk about your new movie. The new movie I just saw last week, which I loved, it's called The Damned United. It's based on a book of the same name, which details the period when Brian Clough took over Leeds United, didn't he?
That's right.
Very briefly, not for a long period. Incredible story. I'm not a football fan particularly. I'm not that knowledgeable. I loved the movie. How much of it is as happened? Do you know how kind of accurate it is?
Well, it's, like you say, it's an adaptation of a novel written by David Peace, so it's a sort of a fictionalisation based around...
Faction, I believe they call it now, don't they? Yeah.
Faction, yeah. And then it's sort of... And our film, you know, uses the book as the basis of the story, but also it's based on research and interviews with people who were there and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's a healthy mixture of fact and fiction.
He's quite a character. He was, I mean, I was aware of him growing up, as I'm sure you were, in the background somewhere, knowing this guy, this kind of very talkative fellow who seemed to be very keen on himself as well. There must have been a lot of research for you to look at, lots of footage of him, because he was on talk shows on a regular basis. I know he did the Parkinson show at least once or twice. What did you feel for him? What did you think of his character, the way he presented himself, and what you learned from the archive and for the stories?
I guess the central thing for me about him was that he was a player, and he was a prolific goal scorer and a great football player, but he was injured, and that brought his career to a very early end. And so he was always someone who didn't get to do what he wanted to do, you know. And so I think management was always a second best thing for him. And he felt hard done by after, you know, he came out of the game as a player. And so Peace says in the novel that, as Clough say, from then on I lived my life as revenge. And I think there was always something underneath that always felt like, you know, he'd rather be out there playing. And I always kind of liken him to Brando, in a way, as an actor, who had a sort of disrespect for acting that kind of gave him a freedom and a nonchalance and a risk-taking kind of attitude that was his genius. And I think Clough had a similar thing about management.
OK, this is Michael in action in The Damned United. I think this opens, is it this week or next week?
It's a week today. OK,
so it's a week today. It's in cinemas all over the UK. Look at this.
OK, people, your man! Pass it! Yeah, again.
You know, he'll be making a file on us. A dossier.
Who?
Don Revie. Prepares a file on every game. Leaves nothing to chance. Knows every opponent's formations, strategies, everything.
I've heard he's a superstitious twat.
We grew up just a few streets apart, you know, in Middlesbrough, close to Ayresome Park. He'll have known my street, Valley Road. Probably bought sweets from Garnett's factory where my dad worked.
Heard he wears the same suit to every game. His lucky blue suit.
Best manager in the country, Don Revie. Played for Sunderland, like me. A centre-forward, like me. And England, like me.
Give it and go!
Peas in a pod, me and Don. 2 peas in a bloody pod. Right, you saw that? That's the way you do it.
The Damned United, gripping story. Fabulous, just little chunk of someone's life. All right, there. Once again, you prepared, you watched the shows. I felt very nostalgic for that period. And once again, I'm not a football fan, but even watching the sports shows then, looking at Jimmy Hill back then, all those names, there's something about it, and there was something about the game back then, or Britain back then, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I've realised that a lot of the characters I played, like Kenneth Williams, David Frost, Brian Clough, they're all people that I kind of grew up with, you know, in the early 70s and late 70s. And so it kind of pushes a lot of emotional buttons for me, you know, just watching this kind of stuff. And like the picture that you showed next with the real Clough next to me, that was from the day that he led out the Leeds team, the Charity Shield match, which was the first match.
His first match as manager
against Liverpool, and we had to recreate that in the film. So there's a guy being Bill Shankly next to me, and he's got the Liverpool team behind him. I've got the Leeds team behind him. That team was the team I supported when I was a kid. Keegan, Toshak, all that lot.
Wow.
And it was just a weird moment to walk out with my team next to me.
OK, Michael, lovely to see you here. Thank you so much for joining. I'm glad we finally got you in the show. I've been an admirer for quite a while now. It's a terrific film. I loved it, and it's not really, I don't think, the sort of movie I would normally go to see, but I found myself totally caught up in it. Can't wait to see you as Blair again.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Sheen.
Cheers. Thanks.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. Billy Brenda, that did. Take care. OK, let's move straight on. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we get my final guest?